Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today. I was going to be talking about our practice, as I do on most occasions. And as I usually say, our practice is to be aware here and now without expectations. Practice is to be aware here and now for the being aware here and now, for the sake of being aware here and now. Usually we have an idea of practice as a technique or a means to get something we're lacking or to improve ourselves in some way. But it's best to let go of expectations like that and just practice being aware for the sake of being aware. In this practice, it becomes directly evident that we exist inseparably from all beings. Our true life is the life of all beings. Our true self is the life of all beings, functioning together inseparably here and now. This can be directly verified in our practice of awareness here and now. Since we are inseparable from all beings, each being we meet is our own life. And realizing this is the basis of compassion. So our practice is to be kind, compassionate to ourselves and others. We're all living inseparably, so let's help each other. In this practice, it also becomes directly evident that each seemingly separate being is a manifestation of totality or wholeness here and now, or the life of all beings here and now. Each seemingly separate being is a manifestation of the life of all beings here and now, or totality or wholeness here and now, which is boundlessly great beyond comparison. You can't find something bigger than totality or wholeness. This is our life. This is the life of all beings. It is our life. So since each seemingly separate being is a manifestation of this boundlessly great totality or life of all beings, each seemingly separate being is great beyond comparison. This is a basis of respect that we have for all beings, even though conventionally speaking, the beings we meet may not look like they're worthy of respect. According to our conventional standards, still, it's if we really see that each being, no matter how seemingly insignificant it may be, is manifesting totality, then we can really respect that being as a great being, a being great beyond comparison. Each seemingly separate being is manifesting totality here and now, or the life of all beings here and now, in its own unique way. In our practice of awareness here and now, we try to find the best way to take care of each seemingly separate, uniquely manifesting being here and now. And to do this, we need to find how to do this in our practice of moment by moment awareness, practice of living here and now with awareness. There's no recipe for doing this. We find how to take care of others and take care of our own life through this practice of awareness here and now. This practice helps all beings and helps all beings to help us. This practice is to fully live the life of all beings here and now, in which all beings are functioning inseparably and mutually influencing each other and mutually assisting each other. There is a chapter of Shobogenzo written by the great teacher Dogen called Bendoa. This means talk on wholehearted practice of the way. And in Bendoa, Dogen shows how one person carrying out this practice is benefiting all beings and simultaneously being benefited by all beings. It's a very interesting passage. It's very different than the usual way we see our life, but it helps us to see our life in a more accurate and deep way than just our conventional dualistic view of how our life is going on. The life of all being functions and manifests itself in such a way as to bring about the appearance of separation of self and others. This functioning of the life of all beings also brings about the appearance of duration in time and the appearance of extension in space and the appearance of movement through space. With wholehearted awareness here and now, which is carried out in our practice, it can be directly realized that ultimately separation of self and others, duration in time, and extension in space and movement through space cannot actually be found. The appearance of separation of self and others, the appearance of duration in time, and the appearance of extension in space and movement through space are empty, illusory manifestations of totality here and now, or life of all beings here and now. But this doesn't mean to ignore them. We pay attention to these appearances. These appearances are manifestations of our life as it is. We don't ignore them. We try to take care of them, function in this reality which appears to be dualistically structured without being caught by the belief that it actually is a dualistically structured reality. So conventionally speaking, there seem to be separate beings, times, places, situations, activities, and events to which names, labels, ideas, personal pronouns, and conceptual categories can be applied in accordance with how things appear to be and in accordance with conventional speech. We use names, labels, ideas, personal pronouns, and conceptual categories. We try to get along and communicate in the conventional, seemingly dualistic world where there seems to be separation of self and others, without being caught by the one-sided belief that there actually is this separation. In the practice of awareness here and now, we try to let go of our attachment to any one-sided idea or belief, even the ideas of oneness or no separation. Any idea we have about how reality is, don't hold to it. Just don't attach to it. So we try to let go of our attachment to any one-sided idea or belief. Then we can be kind and helpful to ourselves and others as we are, without being caught up in our one-sided ideas and beliefs of who and what we are. We can help all the seemingly separate beings without being caught by the one-sided belief that they actually are separate beings. Also, we can take care of the life of all beings, in which all beings are living one inseparable life, without being caught up in the one-sided belief in oneness. Also, we can use ideas and conceptual abstractions without being caught by the belief that here now reality, or the life of all beings, exactly corresponds to these conceptual abstractions. These ideas and concepts and words and conceptual abstractions, they can't exactly explain how reality is. They're just pointers to help us realize what our life is, but we don't grasp them and believe that reality exactly corresponds to these ideas and beliefs. It's important to remember that and just see these ideas and concepts and words as pointers that can help us in our realization of what this reality is. But if we're grasping these ideas and believing that reality exactly corresponds to them, then we're ignoring this directly experienced reality and being caught up in these limited views, being caught up in these conceptual abstractions and ideas and words, which can never completely describe reality. Reality is a boundless, all-inclusive reality. It couldn't be packaged within these limited ideas or concepts. So we need to remember that these concepts about reality are just pointers to help us to realize what this life is, but not to cling to these pointers and believe that the conceptual explanations exactly explain how reality is. Our practice is to fully live as the life of all beings here and now, without being caught up in our limited one-sided ideas and beliefs. When we see we are caught up in our limited one-sided ideas and beliefs, just resume the practice of being aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now. And that resuming the practice of awareness, we allow these beliefs and ideas to naturally drop away by themselves, and we can fully live as we truly are, fully live as the life of all beings here and now, or wholeness or totality here and now. If we're clinging to our ideas about what this life of all beings is, or what here now reality is, we're overlooking the actual direct experience of this life of all beings, which is our true life. We're overlooking this wholeness or totality, which is our true life. So our practice is to see and let go of how the life of all beings is ignored, and to fully live as the life of all beings. This life of all beings is our true self, our true life. This practice helps all beings and helps all beings to help us. This practice is to fully participate in this reality where all beings are functioning together and mutually helping each other. This is to fully participate in that reality. This is how we help all beings and allow all beings to help us. If we're just living based on our ideas about how reality is, we're ignoring the actual, directly experienced life of all beings, which is being directly experienced each moment. So as I said at the start of my talk, our practice is to be aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now. And this awareness is not the conventional idea of awareness. Usually we think, I am being aware. We think that awareness is something that I am doing. We attach the idea of I or to this idea of awareness and thinking I'm being aware. Or we think that awareness is something, some particular state that I am trying to achieve. But eventually in this practice, it can be directly realized that awareness or awakeness is what we truly are. This is, we can see this, and as we continue this practice, that awareness is not something owned by a separate individual. Awareness is not something that can be understood conceptually or seen objectively. Eventually it can be realized that awareness is what we truly are. Each being is a manifestation of this awareness, or we could say awakeness. The technical term for this awareness or awakeness is Buddha nature. This is a subjectless, objectless reality, this Buddha nature. It's not something that a separate subject has or owns. It's not an object that can be seen objectively. It's our true life. This Buddha nature is our true life, and it's the life of all beings. This can be directly realized in our practice of awareness here and now. Katagiri Roshi and Suzuki Roshi. Katagiri Roshi was my teacher, and Suzuki Roshi was the founder of the San Francisco Zen Center. He died in 1971. Both of them used to say, "You are Buddha. All beings are Buddha." And all beings are Buddha, and that all beings are manifestations of Buddha nature. This is something that they strongly emphasized in their teaching. You are Buddha, all beings are Buddha. You are Buddha and all beings are Buddha, and that all beings are manifestations of Buddha nature. All beings are manifestations of this ungraspable, boundless, all-inclusive awareness or awakeness, which is our true life. It's not something that can be conceptually understood. It's not something that can be seen objectively, but it can be directly experienced, and it's being directly experienced now. In this practice of awareness here and now, this can be directly realized. It's not something that can be explained. It's not something that can be pointed out objectively, but it can be directly realized in our practice of awareness and awakeness here and now. So ultimately, practice is not a means to become an awakened person or a Buddha. Usually, as I mentioned before, we start out in our practice thinking, I want to become an awakened person. I want to improve myself and become an enlightened, awakened person. I want to enter into this practice where I can improve myself and become an awakened person. But the practice is not to become, not a means to become an awakened person or a Buddha. Practice ultimately is to be the Buddha or awareness or awakeness that you are right now, and to respect each being as Buddha, to respect ourselves and as Buddha, realize our true nature is the Buddha nature, and to respect each being as Buddha, and to realize their true nature is the Buddha nature. So our practice is to see and let go of how Buddha nature, or awareness, or awakeness, is ignored, and to fully live the awareness or awakeness that is what we truly are. So we usually ignore our Buddha nature by getting caught up in our ideas about it. And we need to see when we're doing that, see when we're trying to understand and grasp this Buddha nature objectively and conceptually. When we're doing that, we're ignoring the actual direct experience of Buddha nature, which is our actual direct experience. So we need to see when we're doing that, see when we're getting caught up in our limited views, and thereby ignoring this Buddha nature that is our true life. And we try to fully live the awareness or awakeness that is what we truly are. So our practice is to see and let go of how our true life is ignored, to see and let go of how the life of all beings is ignored, how wholeness and totality is ignored, and how Buddha nature is ignored. See and let go of that and fully live this reality which is being directly experienced now. So, so as I mentioned several times during my talk, our practice is to be awake, or be aware here and now in all circumstances as much as possible. The most stable and peaceful form of this practice of awareness or awakeness is in Zazen, in the sitting meditation that we do. But this practice is not limited to the practice of Zazen. This practice can be carried out in all our activities of everyday life. In all our activities of everyday life, we try to carry out this practice of awareness or awakeness, seeing and letting go of how our true life is ignored, and resuming the practice of just being aware. And in this practice of awareness, allowing the ways in which we ignore here now reality to be let go of. This practice is it's good to have teachers who can help point out what this practice is. It's also good to participate in a community where others are carrying out this practice. These are helpful ways in which we can carry out this practice of awareness or awakeness. This practice of awareness or awakeness has two essential parts. First is a vow. We need to vow to try and carry out this practice here and now as much as possible in all situations. We need to vow to do that and make the effort to do that, a serious effort to do that. This doesn't mean to be obsessive about it, but as much as we can, as much as possible, we vow to be aware here and now in all circumstances as much as possible. And to do that, we need the practice of admission. We need the vow. This is an essential aspect of our practice, to really take this practice seriously. And we need the admission. The admission is to acknowledge or admit when we're no longer carrying out this practice of awareness. Is to acknowledge or admit when we're caught up in our limited ideas and beliefs and one-sided assumptions about what our life is, and thereby ignoring actual direct experience. We need the vow to be awake, to really take this seriously and commit ourselves to it. And we also need the admission to help us see when we're no longer carrying out our vow to be aware and awake. When we're caught up in our limited views and ignoring this reality, which is our true life. So you need the vow, and you also need the admission to see when you are overlooking or ignoring this reality of awakeness or awareness that is your true life. When you practice in this way, being aware here and now, for the sake of being aware here and now, we can see that we're living inseparably from all beings. And when we see that, we can have an attitude of kindness, compassion, and generosity towards ourselves and all the beings that we meet. So we really try and help ourselves and others and all the beings that we meet. We realize we're living one inseparable life, so we really try to make an effort to take care of this life of all beings. When we carry out our practice in this way, a very joyful life is possible. And this is not the joy that we strive to get. It's not our conventional idea of joy. This is not an egocentric joy. This joy is letting go of grasping our egocentric ideas and beliefs and fully living out here now reality, fully living as we truly are. This is different than our conventional ideas of joy, where we think of joy as being something that makes me feel happy. This joy is beyond the egocentric ideas of joy. This is the joy of living as we are, in harmony with reality, in harmony with all beings. This is the joy of living without the confusion of being caught up in egocentric, one-sided ideas. When we're caught up in our egocentric, one-sided ideas, we live our lives based on them and ignore the realities as being directly experienced now. And this leads to a life of confusion. But this is a joy of letting go of this confusion so we can live our life without being caught up in these egocentric, one-sided views. This is a joy of living inseparably from all beings who are mutually assisting each other. In this practice, we can really see that all beings are helping us and that we're influencing and helping all beings. This can really be directly seen, not objectively seen or conceptually understood, but directly realized. This is joy of having the opportunity in each moment to express our gratitude to all beings. So this is not the conventional egocentric joy where we're thinking of joy as being something that I get. This is goes beyond the conventional idea of joy. I'll try to give some examples of this. I used to have a metal shop teacher back in junior high school, and he was named Mr. Blanchard. We used to call him Mr. B. And Mr. B used to really love Fridays. He used to call Fridays Joy Supreme Day. And every Friday he would say to us boys in the metal shop class, "What day is it today, boys?" And then he would have us answer him in unison, "It's Joy Supreme Day, Mr. B." And you very quickly learn that Mr. B would be much more lenient in grading your metal shop project if you turned it in on a Friday. If you turn it in on another day, you might look at your project and say, "Boy, this is pretty sloppy here. What were you thinking when you did this? You better do this project over again." But if you turned in your project on Friday, he'd be much more generous with his assessment of your project. You might say, "I really like the freestyle way you did this. This shows a lot of creativity." So he'd be much more generous with your project on if you turned it in on Friday. He just really loved weekends. He must have. I don't know what he had going on the weekends, but it must have been really great because he really loved Fridays, calling it Joy Supreme Day. So he really had probably had some great anticipation of how the weekend was going to be. And he greatly felt great joy about that. But this is a conventional idea of joy. It's the joy of looking forward to some wonderful experience. It's this is a conventional idea. It's another conventional idea is thinking that joy is gratifying our desires, or the joy is having something exciting and wonderful to look forward to. When I was in elementary school, about the 5th grade, we were told we were going to be able to go to the circus. Circus was coming to town in about 2 weeks, and we were going to be able to go to the circus. And so all of us kids were looking forward to getting out of school and going to circus. We were really excited about that. And we look forward to this with joyful anticipation. Every day during those 2 weeks, we talked about how great it was going to be when we get out of school and go to the circus. We think, "Oh man, that'll be so great." And we look forward to this with great joyful anticipation. But on the day of the circus, we got out of school and but when we got to the circus, it wasn't that great. They had the acrobats and they had the clowns and they had, animals and stuff. It wasn't that great. Us kids were looking at each other kind of like, wow, we were anticipating this being a great, joyful event, but it's not that great. But there was one thing we really did enjoy and really found humorous. This was the highlight of the circus for us. And that's when the trained pigs were performing. We really busted up. We were really cracking up when the trained pigs were performing. And that was definitely the highlight for us. And what was so wonderful and humorous about the trained pigs was how incredibly poorly trained the trained pigs were. Us kids really got a huge kick out of that. But if we had known beforehand that seeing these incredibly poorly trained pigs was going to be the highlight of the circus, it's doubtful that we would have looked forward to this event with such joyful anticipation. So anyway, this is my talk today, and if you have any questions about this, go ahead and ask them, and I'll also any comments. If you have any comments about this, I'll try to respond to them.
Hi Norm, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the thanks for the talk. I was interested particularly in what you were saying about needing the vow and the admission. Um, I just wonder if you've got any tips, having once sort of, if you like, admitted that the practice has gone a little wayward. Um, how is it best to actually come back to the practice without actually, if you like, losing one's way completely?
Well, that's what the admission is admitting that you've gone somewhat astray, that you're overlooking here now experience and getting caught up in your ideas about it. The admission is to acknowledge that and to resume the practice of being aware here and now for the sake of being aware here and now, resuming the practice of being aware to direct actual experience and carrying out that practice.
So, are there any tips as to actually once you've realised that you've stopped the practice, or the practice has gone wayward, in actually taking that admission and coming back to the centre, or is just the admission sufficient in itself?
Yeah, it's acknowledging that you're overlooking actual experience and resuming the practice of living out the direct experience. It's resuming it and carrying it out. And that is very natural that will happen during the course of our practice. Very natural for us to get caught up in our ideas and beliefs. When we see that happening, just see that and resume the practice of being aware here and now, just for the sake of being aware here and now. Allow our ideas and beliefs to naturally drop away by themselves, and just continue the practice of being aware of direct here now experience. Doesn't mean to criticize ourselves for falling back into our ideas and beliefs, just being aware when it's happened and resuming the practice of being aware here and now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Norm.
Hi, Jordan.
Hi. My question is, we talk about, you guys talk about big mind, or Huang Po talks about there's just the one mind.
Yeah.
My question is, so I'm kind of looking at it from that perspective. What would you say the one mind is doing to create this difficulty for people and with confusion, not being able to see what this practice is about, or like what exactly is the one mind doing to create the confusion for the parent individual selves?
One mind is just functioning. Very naturally, confusion will come up in the functioning of the one mind. We just need to see when it's happening and allow it to drop away. Nothing wrong with the one mind. It's just we overlook the actual experience of one mind. We overlook that reality and get caught up in our ideas about it. Nothing wrong with the one mind. The one mind manifests itself in accordance with conditions. One mind manifests itself in accordance with reality. Nothing wrong with that. It's just we grasp it. We grasp the ideas that we have about reality and live our life based on these ideas rather than really paying attention to the actual direct experience, which is of the functioning of the one mind. Everything is a manifestation of the one mind. Even our confusion. It's just we tend to get caught by our confusion. Eventually we can let go of the ways we're caught. Does that make sense to you?
Right. So, I mean, ultimately, though, it's the one mind that's doing the grasping here that's getting caught, though, right?
Well, one mind is just functioning. It manifests as it looks like there's grasping going on, but the one mind itself is not grasping. The one mind is just functioning. We need to pay attention to this one mind, or totality, or wholeness, or life of all beings. We need to resume the direct experience and let go of our ideas about what this reality is. Does that make sense to you?
I'll have to look into it a little bit. But yeah, I appreciate that, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Norm. I was wrapped up in the story and I was waiting for an example of the other joy that wasn't anticipation. Was it in the kids and in the pigs?
Well, as kids, we're the ones who were primarily experiencing the joy. We were laughing our heads off at the pigs.
Well, I hope the
They
pigs.
were doing- they were doing lots of things that were not usually associated with what trained pigs would do.
Well, I hope they were feeling the joy too. So
I'm sure they were in their own unique way. Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, Norm.
Oh, hi. How's it going, man?
Good, good. I have a question. I think you answered it in the other questions, but we're living in a time that's very politically, anyway, divisive and polarized, and we're seeing each other more and more as separate people with, you know, different ideas and judging each other, and it's just happening. It feels like it's happening everywhere. It's difficult to see in those times how we are mutually beneficial to each other, how we, can you talk a little bit more about that, given the current climate?
Right. You're right. It does definitely seem like a time in which we're in arguments with each other, especially during this political season. You know, it seems like a situation in which we're fighting each other in competition with each other. But the actual direct experience, we don't find separate, persisting, substantial beings who are doing that. But it certainly seems like it. It certainly seems like it. And in seeing and letting go of how we usually interpret our experience, it eventually can be directly seen that ours is the life where all beings are functioning together inseparably and mutually helping each other. It's not something that can be objectively seen or understood conceptually, but it can be realized directly without holding to our ideas about what the situation is. So, but you're right, it does most definitely seem like a very contentious time where you have some, well, we have some very contentious politicians at each other's throats. We don't ignore how this seems, we pay attention to all of that, but as much as possible, try to see beyond the usual ideas we have about what this appearance or what this situation is. See if we can see beyond the usual ideas of what it is, and see if we can let go of the usual ideas by which we understand this situation. Does that address the question?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.